Your
Yes.
opening statement. Um, when you talk about supporting Israel's right to defend itself, that includes, I'm assuming, but correct me if I'm wrong, that includes their retaliatory strikes against Hamas targets in Gaza, right?
We're speaking of the principle of self-defense. We certainly.
I'm asking if you think that the principle of self-defense applies to the retaliatory, the airstrikes that they're conducting in response.
Matt, this is a very fluid situation. I would hesitate to comment on operations beyond, the rocket fire that is clearly targeting innocent civilians in Israel. So I would hesitate to speak to specific operations that have just occurred. But the broader principle of self-defense is something we stand by on behalf of Israel and every other country.
Do you think that an Israeli military response to the rockets coming in, a military response to the rockets coming in is covered by this broader rubric of self-defense, right?
Self-defense often does authorize the use of force.
There's an attempt, or was an attempt earlier, and maybe I've missed something since we've been in here, but at the UN Security Council for there to be a presidential statement about the situation, and it looks like you guys were holding it up. Can you explain what the issue is?
Well, as you know, Matt, as we've commented on in different contexts, we don't discuss our actions during private consultations. What I will say, however, is that we want to see whatever comes out of the UN Security Council. We want to see to it that those products, be they statements or anything else, don't escalate tensions. That's our overriding priority. Said.
Thank you, Ned. I want to ask you about East Jerusalem, but let's talk about what you said about the principle of self-defense. Does that in any way apply to the Palestinians? Do they have a right to self-defense? Do Palestinians have a right to self-defense?
Broadly speaking, Saeed, we believe in the concept of self-defense. We believe it applies to any state. I don't think that. I certainly wouldn't want my words to be construed as.
I understand. I want to ask you on Israel. I don't want to harp on this either, but the Israelis killed 13 people just now, including maybe 5 or 6 children. Do you condemn that? Do you condemn the killing of children?
Saeed,
I'm asking, do you condemn the killing of Palestinian children?
Obviously, and these reports are just emerging, and I understand, I was just speaking to the team, I understand we don't have independent confirmation of facts on the ground yet, so I'm very hesitant to get into reports that are just emerging. Obviously, the deaths of civilians, be they Israeli or Palestinians, are something we would take very seriously.
Okay, now you recognize that East Jerusalem is occupied Palestinian territory, and as such, Israel has no legal claim whatever. The Israeli Supreme Court weighing on this is really absurd because, all the documents are there, the Jordanian document, the Ottoman document, and so on. But, you are really unwilling to hold Israel responsible for what's going on in Sheikh Jarrah. I mean, you have to look at where this whole thing started, correct?
And that's why we've spoken about what was set to take place in Sheikh Jarrah. As you know, Saeed, we issued a statement on Friday. The White House issued a statement yesterday in conjunction with the readout of National Security Advisor Sullivan's call with his counterpart. We have been clear about where we stand in Sheikh Jarrah. We've been clear in urging the Israelis to act responsibly, to treat Palestinian residents with compassion and with humanity in this case. I will, because I just wanted to make sure there's clear understanding about what I said before and what I didn't say before. The question before was, in terms of occupation, what I said before was the West Bank remains occupied. Jerusalem, of course, is a final status issue to be determined by the parties.
But one last thing, there seems to be a great deal of some people are upset pro-Israeli, like the Free Beacon and so on. They're upset with Jelina's, what Jelina said, although what she said really was no different than what you said. What is your reaction to that? They're saying that you have distanced yourself from what she said.
I am aware what you're referring to. I think if you look at the report that you're mentioning, Jelina is quoted in that report as offering additional context to the statement she made last week. Andrea.